Everyone, we are in portfolio subject and we are on reading 83 portfolio risk and return part 1. As we done in our classes, so I supposed to record it as I'm explaining you. So an examination means basically this chapter is how return and standard deviation from the investor perspective for the if you are a portfolio manager and the investor come across you and saying that कि मुझे इतना रिटर्न चाहिए, मुझे 30% रिटर्न चाहिए, मुझे 20% रिटर्न चाहिए, so we can't gauge the return. Okay, so thing is that actually we can only gauge return on the basis of risk. Okay, we can't risk we can't gauge risk on the basis of return. It's a top down top method. Okay, so you have to first gauge the risk or risk ability of the portfolio of the investor, and then we have to think that if he is suitable for this risk, if his risk taking ability is from 10% when on from in in minimum amount of risk, how can we give them ample amount of returns. Okay, the basic meaning of the portfolio manager, the ability of the minimum, the maximum ability of the risk, the minimum in the minimum standard deviation, how can we take maximum returns. Okay, so we have to make that formula, we have to make that structure or the portfolio. We have to design as we have to design that portfolio for the investor who come across us. Scene is the thing is like that risk aversion and the risk aversion. There are three type of investor: risk aversion, risk seeker, and a risk neutral. The risk aversion basically is the person who don't want any kind of risk, means he need at 5% of risk he want 20% of returns. Okay, but in the finance it is not possible to gauge this type of return, means they are they are very rigid on their action, they are rigid on their sentence, they're rigid on their ability, means they don't have to lose their money. Okay, so the standard deviation is high, standard deviation is low, means they don't want the risk. Therefore the standard deviation for that type of investor is low, but they want high returns. So how can we get, how as a portfolio manager we can make a portfolio for them? So we will saw in further example always. And second one is risk seeking, they also call it risk lover, means the person who love to take a risk. Okay, means if take a it's a kind of example, take a short kind of example. If you are doing gambling has only probability of 50% chance. 50% he will won 100 rupees, or 50% he lost, 50% he lost totally 100 rupees. Follow me, follow. हाँ, risk seeker is always the person who want to take a risk, means he only try to take a risk. If we, as we on our example of this gambling only has a probability to 50% chance he will win, or 50% chance he will lose his money. But where he and there is a first option is gambling, and second option is he will get 50 rupees at any round he will invest. So the gambling, the one who seek the risk, choosing gambling over the this neutral, over the possibility of getting 50 rupees normally. And the risk neutral is the one want who don't take any kind of, who don't bother about the risk. He just want, if he tell I want 15% at any percentage of risk he want 50%, then he want to receive them. We can't gauge it risk ability, because we have to make this, we have to just make sure that the person getting 15% or not. So that kind of investor also exists in here. Utility function is a kind of economics term in which the happiness of the investor, means if he take 5% of standard deviation of 500 rupees, he get 12%, and the utility, the happiness graph of that investor is high, means The person who taking 5% standard deviation and getting 12% return are happy from the inside, and they told or they try to convince other as well that this portfolio manager is much more better than others, and is different from risk neutral, risk aversion, and risk seeker. The utility graph or utility indifferent curve, we can say, is different from everyone, different for every type of investor. Basically, we take utility graph equals to expected return minus 1 upon half of risk aversion into standard deviation into variance. Standard deviation square equals to variance. So basically, formula is expected return minus 1 upon aversion into variance. The aversion is the, here we say the aversion, the more risk aversion investor is, the greater the A is. Means the person who don't want to lose money, don't want to lose his money, for him the risk aversion is higher, greater than 0. And the utility in the utility function, while the risk neutral investor, the term constant A is equals to 0. Risk neutral don't bother about the risk, he just focus on return. Okay, so for him the risk part will become 0, and the person who is risk taker or risk lover, for him the risk aversion constant is in negative, greater than 0. No, it's negative. Theory seeker would have a negative risk A. Okay, and indifference curve is a tool economy that apply in the plot combination of various standard deviation expected among the investor in different. In constructing the investment portfolio curve based on the following expected return, are assuming that they are only portfolio character that invest in figure 2.2. Means we can say that the more is risk aversion, the curve of his graph is more steeper. Means he won't take this example. Okay, it's an x-axis, it's an y-axis. On x-axis we have a standard deviation, means the more risk he will take, the more return he will get. So risk aversion kind of people take less amount of risk. From here the graph will start with here and go upward in this direction. Steeper is graph, the more risk aversion is, the steeper is graph is. But the person who is less risk aversion, the graph is for them is flatter, means like that. They are able to take a risk, so they will take a risk standard deviation, and the risk indifferent curve is go like that. It's steeper, not steeper, it's flatter than the person who is risk aversion. And we can find also our in this again. Here we introduce the person who want to invest and get high returns, but his portfolio risk is the optimal portfolio for him is a kind. Sure, it's a new, but it's not like that you are giving up. Okay, you have to do it again and again until you can't make it happen. Talk in fluent English. Okay, imagine yourself as in front of investor. The investor asks, what is this? What is emission curve? First to take a leg graph, then you are supposed to grab it out and say. The indifference curve is the economic tool which we use for curve. Indifference curve shows the investor ability to take a risk on the basis of given return, on the ability to take a risk on the basis of its return. Okay, and we can't find portfolio returns, estimated portfolio returns. It's a weight. It's totally simple. Weight into returns plus weight into returns. If you have a portfolio in which have we divided into risky asset and some asset we have divided into risky asset, the amount which we have divided between, if say we have 1 crore and we put 40% of it, 40 lakhs of it in risky asset and 60 lakhs in risky asset, then our portfolio, the return we get. So as simplest thing in RFR, in this period we get about 5% return, and in risky portfolio we get around 15% return. But the weightage we have given both of them is different, so we can't directly add up to them. We take their weightage. So example, 40% of 6%, 40% of 6% is around like 6, 0.6, 0.604, 2.4, 2.4%, and the 60% of for the 60% of 40, 60% of 20, example of 20, 60% of 20 is the 12. The 12% plus 2.4 equals is 12 plus 2.4, 14.4 is our portfolio returns. Okay, as we bifurcate, as we supplicate, as we distribute the weightage around them, so we can also find the standard deviation as well of our portfolio through the weight and the asset allocation of the investment. All right, so I think I'm getting late, so I have to go. See you again. Bye bye.